Hi there, this is Bob from Insidium. In today's top tip, I'm going to show you how we can work at low particle count to create a cool granular sim, and then how we can up-res that low particle count sim into a much higher detailed one without losing the overall shape of our simulation. So let's start cinema and we'll begin. In our scene, we have this low particle count, quick to simulate grains sim set up. Now, obviously, our emitter is emitting from our bust here. If we go to the emitter emission tab, we're in shot hexagonal mode. We have our radius set to 2, so it packs as many 2 centimeter particles as it can into an even hexagonal grid within the volume of this. So the particle size dictates how many particles you get. We have a speed of 500 centimeters, which is pushing them down on the -x, so they're smashing into this wall. And just a note, if you're using speed in a granular emission, you must ensure that the subframe emit is switched off. Otherwise, you'll get kind of an explosive initial emission of particles. Let me just show you. If we switch this on and hit play, because they're emitted all at slightly different times, we get this explosiveness, which is not what we want. So we switch subframe emit off, and then we get that perfect emission with the speed bashing them into the wall. Very cool. Now let's go to our NX fluids. We have this set to SPH granular mode. We've upped the substeps to 20, that's important for granular sims, and we've changed the friction to 100, stability to 20, cohesion to 10, and that's giving us this nice granular solve. Now this is good because we can simulate this virtually in real time, make adjustments and change the clumping and get the look that you want. But here's the problem. If we say, yes, we like this, now we want to do a much higher detailed sim, so with loads more smaller particles, well, let's set that up. Go to the emitter, emission, let's put the radius down to 1, which will increase the particle count probably by 10. Loads more particles, much more detail, but because there's loads more particles, all of the granular calculations are totally different, and we get a cool look, but we have lost that initial shape that we had at the lower particle count. It's a completely different sim. What if we want this detail, but we want to retain the shape and feel of the lower particle count sim? Here's how we do it. Let's put our radius back to 2, and we're going to cache the original sim. So let's go to this cache object, and we'll build cache. I'll just stay with you because this is just going to take 5-6 seconds or so. Let's have a look. Yep, just about done. Okay, and we'll play this through, and there's our cached sim with our nice big lumps back. Now we want to get a high particle count detailed sim, but retain this basic shape. Here's how we do it. We need to duplicate our emitter. So let's make a copy, and let's delete that cache tag on this live one. And in this one, this is going to be our high detailed one. So in the emission tab, let's go down to the radius, put it back down to 1. So at least probably 10 times the particle count here. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to NeXus and bring in an Upres modifier. And the Upres modifier is going to take the velocities from our cached particles and blend them and transfer them into our live particles. So how do we do it? Well, it needs a source emitter. That's our cached particles. So let's drag in the cached ones. And it needs the destination emitter. Where are you going to pass on these velocities to? Well, that's obviously the new one. We want to just pass on the velocity. None of these other particle data types we need, just velocity. So let's leave it on that. And by default, it's going to say each destination particle will look for its 3 closest source particles and blend those velocities. The higher this count, the kind of smoother this operation, but the more calculations. Let's put this on to say 20. And we'll make our source particles invisible. And let's hit play. So now we have got way more particles. The simulation is still live. We've still got active fluids doing all of the granular stuff. But because it's blending the velocities of those cached particles, look, we're retaining the same shape of these lumps. So we've got this big lump here, which we had in our initial one. And we've got the benefit of all of that nice detail. And look, it's cracking and looking really cool. But if we make that invisible and look at our source, it's the same basic shape as our low-res version. It's not identical because this is a live fluid sim, but because we're blending those velocities, it retains the overall feel. Fantastic. So that means that we're able to work at the lower resolution, the lower particle count, which is really quick to simulate, which means we can play around with the settings, push and pull, and get the look that you want. And then when you're happy and you want to go to a much higher particle count, you can then up-res to blend those velocities to ensure that we retain that same basic shape of the original, but we get the benefit of that much higher detailed version.